What really happened in that moment of silence, when a global superstar casually mentioned that his contract was not long, and another member of BTS suddenly said nothing at all? Was it just an offhand comment, or the most carefully hidden warning ARMY has ever missed? The question exploded across timelines within minutes, not because Jungkook raised his voice, not because Taehyung cried, and not because Jimin intervened, but because something far more unsettling happened in the JungkookLife Weverse broadcast. Taehyung went completely silent. For a group whose power has always rested on communication, shared laughter, and emotional transparency, silence felt louder than any confession. It was an absence that demanded interpretation, a pause that refused to be accidental, and a moment that immediately sparked one of the most intense waves of speculation the fandom has seen in years. This was not just another casual live. This was not just playful banter between members. This was not just Jungkook speaking freely, as he often does, with the unfiltered honesty that fans adore. This was a convergence of timing, wording, body language, and history, elements that, when placed together, formed a narrative too complex to ignore. Jungkook, Taehyung, and Jimin were together on Weverse, relaxed yet aware of millions of eyes watching. The atmosphere felt warm at first, familiar and comforting. But then came the sentence that changed everything. Jungkook mentioned that his contract with BTS was not long. He did not shout it. He did not emphasize it dramatically. He did not frame it as a crisis. And perhaps that is what made it more alarming. Statements spoken casually often reveal truths people do not intend to reveal at all. What did Jungkook really mean by not long? Was he referring to time? To terms? To uncertainty? To something already decided behind closed doors? Or was it merely an awkward phrasing, misunderstood by fans eager for clues about BTS's future? The question would already have been enough to ignite speculation on its own. But the real shock came seconds later when Taehyung, normally expressive, responsive, emotionally present, did not say a word. Silence, especially from Taehyung, has never been neutral. Observers immediately noticed the shift. Taehyung's expression changed subtly, not dramatically enough to become a meme, but just enough to be unsettling. His eyes lowered. His lips pressed together. He did not interrupt Jungkook. He did not laugh it off. He did not ask for clarification. He simply stopped speaking. Jimin, seated with them, appeared to sense the shift too, briefly filling the space with light conversation, as if to protect both the moment and the audience from spiraling too fast. But ARMY had already noticed. Screenshots began circulating within minutes. Clips were slowed down, zoomed in, replayed again and again. Fans dissected micro-expressions with near-academic precision. Was Taehyung surprised? Hurt? Thoughtful? Angry? Or was he holding back something he knew he could not say on camera? This is where the story stops being just about one sentence and becomes about years of context. BTS is not just a group. It is an institution, a cultural force, and for many fans, a symbol of consistency in an industry built on impermanence. Contracts, renewals, and negotiations have always been a sensitive topic, not because fans believe the members owe them eternity, but because BTS has repeatedly framed their journey as one of shared growth and collective longevity. When the group renewed contracts in the past, it was celebrated not just as a business decision, but as an emotional reaffirmation of unity. That history is why Jungkook's words felt so heavy. Jungkook is often described as the most sincere member when it comes to speaking without calculation. He has cried openly, admitted fear, confessed doubt, and shared joy with equal honesty. When he speaks, fans tend to believe that what they are hearing is unfiltered truth, rather than strategic messaging. So when he mentioned that his contract was not long, many fans felt as though they had accidentally overheard something not meant for them. Was this a slip? Or was it a signal? And why did Taehyung respond with silence? Taehyung's silence cannot be separated from his personality. Known for his emotional depth, artistic sensitivity, and expressive communication, Taehyung rarely hides how he feels. When he is happy, it is obvious. When he is uncomfortable, fans often sense it immediately. Over the years, he has spoken about struggling with pressure, expectations, and the weight of being constantly observed. His music, his acting, and even his fashion choices have often been interpreted as extensions of his inner world, so when someone like Taehyung chooses not to speak, it feels intentional. Some fans theorized that Taehyung was hearing the information for the first time. Could it be possible that Jungkook's comment caught him off guard? That idea alone was enough to send shockwaves through the fandom. BTS is famously close, often described as family rather than colleagues. The idea that one member might reveal something about his contract status publicly before discussing it privately with another feels almost unthinkable to fans who have followed their bond for over a decade. But others offered a different interpretation. What if Taehyung already knew? What if the silence was not surprise but restraint? What if he wanted to say something but chose not to because the cameras were on, because the moment was not safe, because honesty at that level could cause consequences far beyond the room they were sitting in? The presence of Jimin complicates the scene further. Jimin, often seen as the emotional stabilizer in group settings, appeared calm, even gentle, as if deliberately steering the conversation away from dangerous territory. His role in that moment has been analyzed almost as much as Taehyung's silence. Was he protecting Jungkook from overexposure? Was he protecting Taehyung from having to respond? Or was he protecting the group as a whole from the weight of a conversation that could not be had publicly? The dynamic felt layered, careful, and heavy with unspoken understanding. It is also important to consider timing. BTS is in a transitional phase, balancing individual activities with group identity, military service timelines, and evolving personal goals. Contracts during such a period are rarely straightforward. They involve negotiations not just about money, but about creative freedom, schedules, and future direction. Jungkook, who has increasingly explored solo artistry, may be standing at a crossroads that fans are only beginning to glimpse. If Jungkook's contract truly is not long, what does that mean for BTS as a group? Does it imply an upcoming renewal? A renegotiation? A restructuring of how BTS operates? Or does it hint at a future where the group exists in a different form, less defined by traditional contracts and more by voluntary collaboration? These questions are not new, but they felt newly urgent in that live broadcast. Taehyung's silence became the emotional center of the conversation precisely because it refused to give answers. Silence invites projection. It forces audiences to fill in gaps with their own fears, hopes, and interpretations. For some fans, Taehyung's silence looked like pain. For others, it looked like acceptance. For others still, it looked like quiet defiance. There were fans who noticed that Taehyung's body language after the comment changed. He leaned back slightly. His gaze shifted. His energy softened. These details, though subtle, fed into a narrative that something significant had just occurred. Whether that narrative reflects reality or fandom anxiety is impossible to determine, but its emotional impact is undeniable. Adding to the complexity is Taehyung's own history with contracts and artistic expression. He has spoken before about wanting to grow, to explore acting, to challenge himself creatively. He has also shown deep loyalty to BTS, often emphasizing how much the group means to him. That duality, personal ambition and collective identity, mirrors the tension fans sensed in that silent moment. Was Taehyung silently grappling with the idea of a future where BTS's structure changes? Was he thinking about his own path? Or was he simply processing Jungkook's words, choosing to listen rather than react? The fandom's reaction unfolded in waves. Initial shock gave way to intense analysis, which then splintered into competing narratives. Some fans urged calm, reminding others that contracts are legal matters and that not long could mean many things. Others felt betrayed by the ambiguity, craving reassurance in a moment that offered none. And some fans expressed gratitude for the honesty, however uncomfortable it might be. One thing was clear: the live had touched a nerve. What makes this moment particularly powerful is that it was unscripted. In an industry where public appearances are often carefully managed, moments like this stand out precisely because they feel real. Jungkook did not appear to realize the weight of his words until after they were spoken. Taehyung did not perform emotion. He withheld it. Jimin did not explain. He redirected. Together, these reactions created a scene that felt almost cinematic in its restraint. Could this silence mark a turning point? Or will it fade into the long archive of BTS moments that fans revisit with nostalgia rather than concern? History suggests that BTS often communicates important transitions gradually, through tone rather than announcements, through moments rather than statements. The silence then might not be a warning but a bridge, a pause between what was and what will be. Still, questions remain. Why did Jungkook choose those words? Why did Taehyung choose silence? And why did this moment resonate so deeply with millions of fans around the world? Perhaps the answer lies not in what was said, but in what was felt. BTS has always thrived on emotional honesty. Even when they do not explain everything, they allow fans to feel alongside them. This live broadcast, with its unexpected confession and equally unexpected silence, reminded fans that BTS members are still human, navigating uncertainty, growth, and change in real time. As the clips continue to circulate and interpretations continue to multiply, one truth stands firm: that silence mattered. It was not empty. It was full of meaning, even if that meaning remains unresolved. And maybe that is the most honest thing of all, because in that brief moment when Jungkook spoke, Taehyung fell silent, and Jin quietly held the space, ARMY was reminded that the future of BTS is not a simple headline, but an unfolding story, written not only in contracts and schedules, but in glances, pauses, and the courage to keep going even when the answers are not yet ready to be spoken. The silence did not end when the live broadcast ended. In many ways, that was when it truly began. After the Weverse Live concluded, fans expected clarification, perhaps a follow-up post, a casual comment, or even a joke to dissolve the tension. None came. Jungkook did not return to explain what he meant. Taehyung did not address his silence. Jin did not offer reassurance. The absence of explanation only deepened the sense that what happened was not trivial, not accidental, and not something that could be easily undone with a smile or a heart emoji. In academic terms, moments like these are often described as interpretive ruptures, points where audience understanding fractures because the available information no longer aligns with established narratives. For years, BTS's narrative has been one of shared commitment and transparent communication. When Jungkook casually suggested temporal limitation, and Taehyung responded with silence, the established narrative cracked just enough to reveal uncertainty underneath. Fans began to revisit older interviews, lyrics, and speeches, searching for retrospective clues. Lines from Jungkook's solo songs were reinterpreted. Taehyung's recent artistic choices were placed under a new lens. Even Jin's humor in past broadcasts was suddenly re-examined for hidden seriousness. This phenomenon, where present events reshape how the past is understood, is common in fandom culture, but rarely has it been triggered by something as understated as silence. Some fans pointed out that Jungkook's phrasing might have been influenced by legal language. Contracts are often discussed in terms of remaining duration rather than intent. Saying a contract is not long does not necessarily imply dissatisfaction or departure. It can simply be a factual statement. Yet the emotional response suggests that fans did not interpret it as mere legality. They interpreted it relationally. They heard it as a comment on belonging. And Taehyung's silence amplified that interpretation. In interpersonal communication theory, silence can function as agreement, disagreement, contemplation, or resistance depending on context. In this case, the context was loaded with history, emotion, and public scrutiny. Taehyung's silence could have been a protective act, protecting Jungkook from misinterpretation, protecting himself from saying something he might regret, or protecting the group from speculation that could spiral out of control. Yet protection does not erase impact. For many fans, the moment triggered a deeper fear that has lingered quietly for years. The fear that BTS, as they have known it, may not last forever in its current form. Not because of conflict or collapse, but because time, growth, and personal evolution inevitably change even the strongest bonds. Jungkook's words felt like a crack through which that fear finally surfaced. What made the situation even more emotionally charged was Jungkook's demeanor after the comment. He did not appear anxious. He did not appear conflicted. He spoke with the calm of someone stating something already accepted internally. That calm contrasted sharply with Taehyung's silence, creating a subtle emotional dissonance. It was as if two different stages of processing were happening in the same room. At the same time, Jin's role again became crucial. His decision not to probe, not to react strongly, and not to demand clarification can be interpreted as emotional intelligence. Jin has often been described as someone who understands timing. Perhaps he understood that whatever Jungkook had just revealed was not meant to be unpacked publicly. Perhaps he sensed that Taehyung needed space rather than spotlight. That choice, to move forward rather than dig deeper, may have spared the members in the moment, but it left fans holding unanswered questions. As discussion spread across platforms, a divide emerged. One side argued that fans were overreacting, projecting anxiety onto a harmless statement. The other insisted that ignoring the emotional weight of the moment was a form of denial. Both sides shared the same underlying concern: love for BTS and fear of losing what they represent. What is often overlooked in these debates is the burden carried by the members themselves. Every word they speak is magnified, analyzed, and archived. A casual comment becomes a headline. Pause becomes a theory. In such an environment, silence may be the safest response, even when it hurts those who long for reassurance. Taehyung, in particular, has spoken before about the pressure of being constantly interpreted. His silence, then, may have been an act of self-preservation. Not everything needs to be explained. Not every emotion needs to be shared in real time. Some moments are meant to be lived privately, even when lived publicly. Yet fans are not wrong to feel shaken. BTS has always invited fans into their emotional world. They built trust through openness, vulnerability, and shared storytelling. When that openness suddenly gives way to silence, it feels like a door closing, if only slightly. The discomfort comes not from entitlement but from change. Perhaps this moment marks a subtle shift in how BTS navigates their public identity. As the members mature, their boundaries may evolve. What was once freely shared may now be guarded. What was once explained may now be left unsaid. If that is the case, then Taehyung's silence is not a sign of fracture, but of transition. Still, the question lingers: why did that silence feel so heavy? Because it came at a time when fans are already bracing for transformation. Military service, solo projects, global industry changes. All of these factors have created an atmosphere of anticipation mixed with unease. Jungkook's comment did not create that atmosphere. It simply pierced it. And Taehyung's silence made it impossible to ignore. And the days following the live, many fans reported feeling unexpectedly emotional. Some described a sense of mourning, as if grieving something not yet lost. Others felt a renewed appreciation for the present, recognizing that moments of togetherness should not be taken for granted. In this way, the silence achieved something words often cannot. It made people feel. Whether Jungkook's contract will be renewed, restructured, or reimagined remains unknown. Whether Taehyung's silence reflected agreement, concern, or something else entirely may never be clarified. But perhaps clarity is not the point. BTS has always existed in the space between certainty and uncertainty. Their story is not defined by permanence, but by authenticity. If authenticity sometimes includes silence, then this moment, uncomfortable as it may be, is still true to who they are. And so the question that opened this story remains unanswered. Not because it cannot be answered, but because the answer is still unfolding. Was that silence a warning, a pause, or simply a breath before the next chapter? For now, all anyone can do is watch, listen, and remember that even in silence, BTS continues to speak. Just not always in words, and yet, the longer the silence echoed, the more it began to transform. From something frightening into something revealing. And the aftermath of that live, fans started to notice a subtle shift, not only in how they interpreted the moment, but in how they interpreted BTS themselves. The group that once felt eternally fixed suddenly appeared human again, bound by time, contracts, and personal thresholds. Jungkook's sentence and Taehyung's silence worked together like a mirror, forcing ARMY to confront a truth that had always existed but was rarely spoken aloud. Nothing meaningful stays unchanged forever, not even something as powerful as BTS. What makes this moment academically fascinating is how meaning was generated not through explicit communication, but through absence. In media studies, silence is often described as a meaning-making void, a space where audiences actively construct narratives to fill what is missing. That is exactly what happened here. Taehyung did not need to speak for the moment to become historic. His refusal or inability to respond became the message itself. Some fans began to argue that Taehyung's silence might have been directed not at Jungkook, but at the situation. The idea that contracts, legal, rigid, impersonal documents, could suddenly intrude into a space meant for connection and warmth may have created an internal conflict. A live broadcast is supposed to feel safe, intimate, almost domestic. Jungkook's comment disrupted that atmosphere, introducing the cold reality of expiration dates into a space built on emotional continuity. Taehyung's silence, then, could be read as resistance to that intrusion. Others noticed that Jungkook, after making the comment, did not repeat it. He did not elaborate. He did not joke about it. This too is telling. Often when someone realizes they have said too much, they either retreat or double down. Jungkook did neither. He simply moved on. That composure suggests acceptance, perhaps even resignation. It suggests that whatever he referred to is not a hypothetical future, but a known timeline. That interpretation alone was enough to send waves of anxiety through the fandom. If Jungkook already knows his contract is not long, does that mean decisions have already been made? Or does it mean that the group is entering a phase where renewal is no longer automatic, but conditional, based on individual desires rather than collective momentum? Taehyung's silence adds another layer. Silence can also be a form of respect. Perhaps Taehyung chose not to speak because he recognized that Jungkook was sharing something personal, even if unintentionally. Interrupting, questioning, or reacting emotionally could have turned the moment into something irreversible. Silence in that case would be the most compassionate response. But compassion does not erase consequence. For fans, the moment felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, aware that something lies beyond but unable to see it clearly. The lack of official clarification did not calm this feeling, it intensified it. Every subsequent appearance, every post, every lyric was now scanned for echoes of that live,